Good morning, coffee moaners. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. There's my coffee behind. I'll just put my finger in it. Morning, everyone. Morning, if you're listening on podcast. Do whatever platform you're listening to or watching on, well, YouTube you're watching on. Please do subscribe. Do hit the notification bell. Hit the like button. Do all those things that are positive. And if you want to do something negative, do it. And then just have a miserable day. I hope you're all well. Morning, Farida. Morning to everyone. Morning to all our regulars. Morning to anyone who's new. Welcome. It's the morning of. It's the morning. But to be brutally honest with you, I just got the reason I was 2 minutes late. I was just slightly distracted by what purports to be the latest released footage from Japan of the interstellar object that is 3I Atlas. It can't be verified. Nothing can be verified because nothing is being filmed or photographed by any of the official space agencies. So as we speak right now, there is something going around the back of the sun that some, very much fringe thought at the moment, but some speculate could be some kind of technological, astronomical, extraterrestrial object. So forgive me, I was just looking into that just prior to this. Morning, Olivia Lewis. Haven't managed to have a coffee morning in ages. Happy Tuesday to you as well, Olivia. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Most of all, though, in a weird way, a lot of the stories and a lot of the headlines have already tripped out in the press push. They've been trickled into the media, quotes, revelations, stories, etc. Regarding Virginia Guiffre and her memoir, which is officially published today. And of course, Virginia Guiffre being the Epstein victim who was very strongly attached to Prince Andrew with the infamous photograph. And her memoir has come out and it doesn't look good. It's called Nobody's Girl. It doesn't look good for Prince Andrew. I mean, in fact, I think he has to, the thing about being a prince or the son of a queen or a monarch is you can't not be a prince. So he's going to always be a prince. But we're going to talk about how he is under pressure, how he could lose his dukedom. Lots of questions being asked in the tabloids here about how he's paying for his Frogmore, is it, or Frogmarch, whatever his place is that he's living in. So there's that. But the one thing I don't want to get involved in is the idea that Prince Andrew is the only culprit in this hideous Epstein files drama. You know, Trump wants us to think there's nothing to be seen here. The FBI in America wants us to think that. And the problem with a cover-up, and I'm going to show you some headlines. And Danny fucking Price, brilliant independent journalist. Do follow him on Instagram, please. Support him. He's done again another one of his expletive-ridden, laden carousel posts where he just unpacks it really neatly. And I want to go through it with you. But the really important thing to remember here is, and we've said it many times, there is a direct link and a complete correlation between the Epstein controversy, the Epstein story, and Israel. And, you know, people might work, it's getting to the point where people are going to probably start saying, oh, God, you know what? Does everything go back to Israel? Well, do you know what I would say to anyone who says that? I'd say, unfortunately, it fucking looks like it does. Yes. So before people get a bit, oh, God, is everything to go back to? Yes. Because when we talk about foreign powers and countries interfering in the higher echelons and running of other countries, rather than banging on totally about Russia, they do it, or China, they do it, or America, they do it, or us, we do it, the French, Spanish, everyone does it. Israel is key. So let's not keep I find it interesting how the right-wing press in this country, the Mail, the Telegraph, they'll focus on the Prince Andrew aspect of this story, but they kind of muscle out of the way the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein were all connected up to their eyeballs with Israel. Israel secret services, intelligence. And the weird thing, I always say this, I've said it many times before, when a cover-up is successful, it's very hard to find stuff because it's been covered up. So when people say, oh, but there's self-evidently, they present it as a self-evident truth. Well, there's no cover-up because there's no evidence of a cover-up. Well, no, when a cover-up is successful, it's covered up. And I think what you're feeling and what we're seeing and why it's important and significant that this woman has managed to get this book published. Don't forget, I think she took her life, did she? Last year, was it? Or the year before? It's a significant moment because you don't often get to hear from the voices of those who are the victims. And when you do hear from the voices of the victims, as we did on Capitol Hill in Washington a few weeks ago, isn't it amazing how predominantly a lot of men in suits are tone deaf, don't hear it, do nothing, filibuster, prevent people being sworn in as senators so that things can't be voted on and things can't be revealed. So I will say it here and now that Israel intelligence services and Israeli intelligence is behind, is threaded through, is at the heart of the EPSTEIN files, and is one of the main reasons why, was it this year she died? Good God, it seems so much longer. And is one of the main reasons why certain countries, it's weird that, isn't it? Only certain countries that actually, when you think about it, when you look at the lists of people who went to the Epstein Island, the names that come up, most of those people connected to Epstein come from the two countries in the world that are least willing to be critical of Israel. Isn't that, what a funny coincidence? Or is it a coincidence? Of course it fucking isn't. America and the UK. We are compromised. They have stuff not just on the people in the files, but they probably have structural endemic access to our, as MeTube has often said here, to our military, to our intelligence, to tech, to our infrastructure. So we know the reasons sometimes, not always, but some of the reasons that Starmer looks as wide-eyed and so out of his depth, like he's literally drowning before our eyes, is because he knows how inextricably entwined the tendrils of Israeli interference are. And all we ever talk about, you've got to ask yourself, why does the mainstream media keep trying to tell us China's a risk, Russia's a risk? It's not that they aren't, but the lady doth protest a little bit too much. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to, obviously, a follow-up on we talked incredibly, and maybe I should apologize for being so impassioned about it. Well, I was just furious about the Tel Aviv Maccabi football thugs. Should they, shouldn't they? Can they, can't they attend their fixture against Aston Villa in the Midlands? And that story, the whole drama around that story. Yesterday, me and Nadia went on the offensive again, saying, look, the Maccabi fans were seen causing violence with another club, admittedly, in Tel Aviv. The match was called off. And in fact, I seem to have seen somewhere that there was another match in Turkey that had to be played behind closed doors. But guess what? Guess what? The government was still doubling down on these thugs and the fans of this club to attend, using the argument. And let's not beat around the bush. What their argument is that it's anti-Semitic to not invite them. It's anti-Semitic to conflate all of the Maccabi fans with a hostile, violent, thuggy element of the fan base. No one was doing that. What happens when you have a violent fan base? And let's not forget, a huge majority, if not nearly all, of Israeli-born Maccabi fans, because of the laws in the country, will have served in the IDF because they have conscription. You have to do your time, don't you? Do you get me? So in a weird way, I think it's an empirical fact that nearly every single Israeli-born, not British-based, but Israeli-born Maccabi football fan will have been, if over the required age, an IDF soldier. So it's not ridiculous to conflate them, not even with being, it's not a Jewish thing, it's an IDF thing. So what they've done and where the story has gone is that the club itself in Israel has tried to get ahead of this story, and they've refused to allow their fans to go. They've said, we won't allow any Israeli Maccabi fans to buy tickets. And in a weird way, you sort of got to look at this with an element of kind of, you know, oh, well, that's quite impressive. Because if they'd come, they'd have revealed their true colors. Though, to be honest with you, I think our government and many Zionist supporting right wingers in this country were relishing the prospect of Maccabi fans coming, causing upset so they could blame all of the people that fought back against them or perhaps counter protested or whatever. But the idea that the actual club has said, no, and it's not safe. It's not safe for our fans, allows Israel, allows the Labour government, allows the Maccabi fans, allows Kemi Badencock and all the like to double down on this idea that, oh, poor Maccabi fans were prevented from being able to go and see their footy abroad because of anti-Semitism. No, it's because there's a huge aspect to the fan base that's violent, thuggish, Islamophobic, anti-Arab, and genocide supporting. If you've seen the crowds, which we've played before in Dam Square in Amsterdam, it's not just a fringe coterie of 2 or 3 football fans. It's a huge number of them. And whilst the majority of them might not be shouting and chanting death to Arabs, you only have to do a little bit of kind of number crunching to work out that that policy, that attitude, and that feeling is quite prevalent within Israel. And when you've got someone, I would beg to say, or I'd suggest, when you've got someone like Tommy Robinson donning a Israeli Maccabi shirt saying, don't support Aston Villa, support Tel Aviv Maccabi, I've lost my mind when it comes to knowing what being a patriot or a nationalist is. Not that I like patriotism or nationalism, but even by his own Tommy Robinson terms, hasn't he totally contradicted himself? So there you go. So the decision's been kind of made, and in making the decision not to let their fans, not to leave their fans vulnerable, not to allow their fans to come to naughty, horrible Aston Villa, a story completely formulated and basically kind of grown on a petri dish by our Labour government. Wow. They can still play the victim card. That's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, what I've noticed with a lot of organizations, groups, clubs, regimes, politicians who support the genocide, because not everyone in Israel supports the genocide in Gaza. You know, there are some humans there who don't. But all those that support the genocide, they like to lean into the victimhood as a justification. And did you know in history that when you look at some of the preconditions of most holocausts, genocides, and mass slaughters or ethnic cleanses, guess what word or phrase is used the most at the beginning of the conducting of an ethnic cleanse or a genocide? Just have a guess, class, what phrase is often sort of indulged in or used to get a genocide going, or to get a mass slaughter going, or to get an ethnic cleanse going? What do you think the phrase is that's often used? If you're listening to a podcast, I'm imbibing some espresso. To be a patriot in the UK, says Fiona Hennessy, is to bow down to Israel. Hilarious. Very few humans in Israel at the moment in terms of compassion for the Gazans. The word is self-defense. Where have we heard that? The right to self-defense. The push against that sort of language is being used in our, villainizing of all migrants. Self-defense. We've got to look after our shores. We've got to look after ourselves. We've got to make sure self-defense. And from a self-defense perspective, you are forever a victim. And I always knew growing up, isn't it funny? And the wonderful thing is, I can't remember, there's an author wrote this some years ago. What was his name? I think it might have been Amitav Ghosh said, up until the age of 40, I lived my life worrying what everyone thought of me. And then he said, after 40, I spent the rest of my life worrying what I thought about everyone else. I always knew I hated passive aggressivity more than just aggression. Passive aggressive is worse, isn't it? It's almost like, I mean, I've said it before. We know how horrible the Tories are. We know how horrible, or you know, dysfunctional Trump is and so many of their reactionary white supremacist ideas are. But there's no surprise there. That's why we've been so fucking furious about Starmer and this Labour Party, because they pretend and there's passive aggressivity. So self-defense is always the what do they call it? The starter gun for the genocide race. It's the starter gun. You go fire the self-defense gun. Starters 10. Best to just not worry and be aggressively kind. Aggressively kind. I like that. Yeah. So we're going to be, well, we've kind of talked about that, but we'll probably touch upon it again. So let's, just in terms of breaking news, well, it's not really breaking news, but it's developing, evolving news. The situation in Gaza, which we will never stop talking about. We have an image of head boy, prefect, JD Vance here, boarding a flight, heading in a minute, if it ever comes. Let's try it again. Heading off, Vance heads to Israel as Qatar condemns continued violation of ceasefire. Because you'd be forgiven for not knowing, if you read the papers or watch the news in this country, that Israel have breached or broken the ceasefire over 100 times now. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Over 100 times, to the point that Qatar, quite a close ally now of America, are getting a bit pissed off. Even Qatar's emir is condemning Israel's continued violation of the Gaza ceasefire. The emir of Qatar says, we reiterate our condemnation of all Israeli violations, particularly the transformation of the Gaza Strip, an area unfit for human life, and continued violation of the ceasefire. It's unfortunate, says the emir of Qatar, that the international community remains incapable of enforcing respect when it comes to the tragedy of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian news agency said that Israel has violated the ceasefire at least 80 times and killed at least 80 Palestinians since the deal went into effect. Let me just pause you there for a moment. Imagine if 80 Israeli citizens had been killed since the ceasefire. I would have thought, I reckon Gaza would have been nuked. But no one else wants to get on board with those details. I mean, you couldn't have a more palpable, obvious, and transparent example of completely different value systems when it comes to lives. It's quite astonishing. It's quite astonishing. And no one's sort of got any shame about that. And we go back to what I said yesterday. We have a profound problem in this country that our media access and our ability to hold our leaders, Starmer and all of them, to account is beyond compromise. We have no way of getting to them. We've got no way of asking questions. We've got no way of challenging them. We've got no way of making them aware of things that they may well not even be aware of because their aides and assistants don't tell them the news. It's as simple as that. If you were an aide if you were one of Keir Starmer's incredibly, it sounds like Morgan McSweeney, quite corrupt aides or assistants, you would you willingly put stuff in front of him that kind of makes us look bad? Of course you wouldn't. So, you know, I can offer Starmer his defense. I don't get given any pieces of paper that says anything possibly bad. I've got a flat in Tel Aviv and I think it's okay. So old Vancy boy, known for his nuance, his subtlety, his charm, he's heading off to Israel to put his little 2 pennies worth into the getting things off the ground for phase 2. So we're coming to Virginia Guiffre again in a minute. Anyway, I just want to show you this clip. This is an interesting clip. This is, and we've got quite an arresting, horrendous clip of Donald Trump on the toilet watching the AI meme he posted of shitting on the No King protesters. I've got a really interesting and quite compelling behind the scenes film of him on the loo, which I'm going to show you in a bit. But anyway, I just want to show you this clip. So if any of us had any doubts that the Gaza Riviera plan isn't still basically the plan, and that it wasn't the plan for so many years, or possibly almost 2 years to the day since October the 7th, 2023. Have a listen to this interview on 60 Minutes with Steve Witkoff. He's a good guy. Everybody likes him. It's really weird. Everybody likes him a lot more than they like me. He gets things done. I don't know what it is. He must just be a good guy. So we've got Steve Witkoff and we've got Jared Kushner sat alongside him. It's always weird. Jared Kushner is an odd chap, isn't he? An odd chap. Sort of there, but not there. Kind of present, but not present. Kind of a person, but not a person. But anyway, listen to this and listen closely.
Going to cost a lot of money.
What's a lot of money?
The estimates are in the $50 billion range. It might be a little bit less. It might be a little bit more. I happen to think that that's not a lot of money in that region. You have governments that are going to jump on in. And
so the Middle East countries are going to provide the money?
But you'll see European participation and so forth. I think the beginning of this plan is how to get it going. And that's what me and Jared work on all the time. The money raising we think is the easy part. We think that happens relatively quickly. But it's the master plan, and we're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
What?
We're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years. Been working on master plans for the last 2 years. Been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
Been working on master plans for the last 2 years? Really, Witkoff? Quelle surprise. I thought this was all a new idea. I thought this was a kind of, we need to solve this quickly. There's so many poor Palestinians that are in a terrible state. God, last 2 years. And the money isn't a problem. Wow. Talk about colonialist, white supremacist fucking exceptionalism. So Witkoff can sit there and say 50 billion isn't a problem. Meanwhile, there are still families clawing through the rubble of Gaza, trying to find bits of their relatives. 50 billion isn't a problem. Okay, well, how about tapping Israel for the 50 billion to rebuild? But of course, there's a danger with even that, because these fuckers are slimy fuckers, all of them. These leaders, these fucking nasty. Steve Witkoff is the, believe it or not, the acceptable face of Trump. He's the one. The reason is, yeah, he can go in, he can do a bit of charm and smarm, and he can relate. He can do the empath thing. But yeah, behind up the scenes, he's a real estate fucking manager. So you can get 50 billion, and a lot of people say, well, Israel should be forced to rebuild it. They destroyed it. They should rebuild it. And of course, Israel said, don't be ridiculous. We were fighting a war. We were clearing out the tunnels. We were making sure there was no copies of Mein Kampf in kindergartens. Don't be so ridiculous. But imagine this. Imagine if Israel turned around, and this could happen. Stranger things have happened, have they not? Imagine this. Israel goes suddenly, okay, we will rebuild it. America will send, it won't be Israeli money. I mean, Israel doesn't have anything. America will send all the money to Israel. Israel will go, we'll rebuild it. And in the rebuilding of it, there will be all sorts of clauses, catches, caveats. They'll rebuild it in their vision of it for themselves without an eye on the Palestinians. This is, we are billionaires as we speak still. And what's interesting about this, and one has to tiptoe carefully around this. There's a really interesting post yesterday that reminded me that of 196 countries around the world, 185 countries do not recognize Hamas as a proscribed terrorist group. That doesn't mean they sanction violence or the killing of innocents, but they don't recognize Hamas as a terrorist group. 185 countries, or thereabouts, of about 196 countries. Wow, what does that tell you? Most of those other 185 countries view Hamas as part of an imperfect, let's put it like that, an imperfect resistance to occupation. 185, hold that thought. We are in a tiny, tiny little club of countries, and I'm just suggesting this as spitballing this as an idea, maybe with a bit of self-interest, maybe with a bit of imperialistic history, got form in this. We are part of that handful of countries that does. So here's the thing. You've got billionaires and oligarchs. You've got Larry, whatever his fucking name was. Is it Larry Ellison, the guy who now owns owns Paramount? He owns TikTok. He wants to watch us all because he's a weird pervert and he wants to make sure we all behave ourselves. Anyway, he wants to build AI centers in Gaza. And still, Trump, everyone is demanding. And this is what you've got to understand. This is a hard thing. You've got to try and, everyone has to walk in everyone else's shoes. We walked in Israel's shoes immediately October the 7th. They had the right to hit back. It was a hit. It was hard. They had a right to hit back, but they didn't have a right to commit a genocide. Everyone then had a right to a two-state solution, but Israel doesn't want a two-state solution. Israel, the weirdest thing about all of this is Israel does not want a two-state solution. So how do you move any further? Okay. So all these billionaires are all swanning around. Oh, look at this strip. It's really sexy. Let's measure it up. I bet they've got little posters of it on their toilet walls, and little kind of, what are they called? Little kind of pins on them. Pinboard pins on them, Well, I love that bit. I love that bit, But it's all about Hamas have to put their weapons down. They mustn't try and get rid of the gangs that Netanyahu has funded to cause unease and catastrophe. So basically Israel and the West have funded or enabled agitative gangs to go into Gaza, cause strife, try and completely kind of keep the chaos going. And if Hamas do anything to try and manage that, what's happening now is Israel and America are going to say, well, they haven't laid down their weapons. We're going to go in and kill them all. 185 countries in the world don't recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. It's what do they call it? It's a sober upper? No, it's a sober. What's it called when you sort of wake up, you have something that kind of makes you sharpen. It's a sharpener. Sobering. Isn't it? It's a sobering thought. So in another section of this interview with 60 Minutes, and if you haven't, do subscribe, hit the notification bell, join this community. You too can be as outraged as me and Nads. And I'm going to read some of your comments out in a moment. I want to show you one more clip with Jared Kushner, where he tiptoes towards the concept of humanity and then literally, listen to him, hit a brick wall. This is an astonishing moment. Jared Kushner, incoming.
So you decide to go to Gaza. Mm-hmm. And what did you see?
It looked almost like a nuclear bomb had been set off in that area. And then you see these people moving back. And I asked the IDF, where are they going? Like, I'm looking around. These are all ruins. And they said, well, they're going back to the areas where their destroyed home was, onto their plot, and they're going to pitch a tent. And it's very sad because you think to yourself, they really have nowhere else to go.
Would you say now, having been there, that it was genocide?
No. No.
Absolutely not. No. No, there was a war being fought.
What? Don't you find that weird? He's tiptoeing into the foothills of humanity there. Compassion, seeing them as humans, acknowledging that they're walking into a landscape that the production design team of the Last of Us or The Walking Dead would say it's too fucking bleak. If any end of life, end of the world apocalyptic franchise wanted to shoot in Gaza, the production design team would go and they go, no, this is there's nothing here for me to work with. It's all gone. So he tiptoes towards humanity. And then when asked about the only thing that could have caused this, because it wasn't an earthquake, there wasn't a flood, we haven't been struck by a meteorite yet. Do you think it was a genocide? No, of course not. It was a war. Strict legal definition of a war. You can't go to war with people if you're occupying their land. I mean, we're talking about strict legal parameters here. You can't, and a lot of people pull us up. One uses the term war as a sort of short-term vernacular. One falls into it. One isn't supporting that, but when one says it, it's just a quicker way of just rather than having to explain it every time. But it's not a war in the conventional sense of things. I found that really weird. There was a moment where I was watching it and I was thinking, oh, right, so he does see them as human. No, he doesn't. No, he sees them as humans, but he doesn't really see them as humans. It's like humanity, bam, hit a wall. No, not a war. No, not a war. No, sorry, not a genocide, only war. Holy war. That's war, folks. That's war. That's what happens in war. Well, it doesn't happen in all wars. Not quite like this, it doesn't. Unless you're dropping a nuclear bomb, which not a lot of people are on board with anymore, or unless you're doing what you did in Dresden, which even at the time was a bit contentious. Wow, quite something. But here's the latest from old Trumpy boy about Hamas.
I mean, we've had countries calling me when they saw some of the killing with Hamas, saying we'd love to go in and take care of the situation ourselves. In addition, you have Israel would go in 2 minutes if I asked them to go in. I could tell them, go in and take care of it. But right now we haven't said that. We're going to give it a little chance, and hopefully there will be a little less violence. But right now, you know, they're violent people. Hamas has been very violent. But they don't have the backing of Iran anymore. They don't have the backing of really anybody anymore. They have to be good. And if they're not good, they'll be eradicated.
Nice, neat, pithy, subtle summation of the situation. Hamas need to behave themselves. I mean, what we're all going through here is we always knew that once they handed over the hostages, and I think the remains of another hostage have been handed over as Vance got on board the plane. There was always the sense that the continuation of the genocide or the control of the Gaza Strip and the erosion of the West Bank would continue. And it's continuing. And what's kind of not clever, because they're not clever, but what's kind of sinister in a sense is that erosion. I mean, Israel could not stick to a ceasefire if its existential existence depended on it. At the end of the day, what we're witnessing now is, however this now spins out, we're witnessing the completion or the finalization or just the next steps in the total takeover of the Gaza Strip. I am telling you right now, unless this fucking interstellar object does something supremely useful and takes us all out, we are going to be seeing flights come up at places like Heathrow and JFK Airport to a symbol that says GZC, Gaza City. It'll be EasyJet. Everyone will be flying there. I promise you. It's so depressing. And the weirdest part of all of this is this only works for the billionaires and those 10 countries and the rich people in all those other countries who don't really care, and it doesn't really matter. And the Gulf states, and it's just a pie to be chopped up and spread around and shared. And the Palestinians, really, even for the Gulf states, not for Muslims, not for the populations of Jordan and Egypt, but for the governments, the leaderships, the regimes of these countries, as well as the West, the Palestinians are a really, really annoying inconvenience. They really are. They're getting in the way of a really good property deal. And it's frustrating because most of the Gaza Strip's already been sold to Zionists in New York because they've chopped it up and sold it and auctioned it. It's weird, isn't it? Do you remember, Witkoff? We've been planning this for 2 years. It slipped out. Didn't it? It slipped out without him realizing. Or maybe he did realize, he just doesn't care. But he's a nice guy. He says things in a nice way. If he tells you a genocide's happening, it's fine. It's Steve Witkoff. He's a good guy. Fucking hell. Okay, let's just stick with Trump. Trump taking a dump. This, I thought, was... well, okay, trigger warning. This is an AI clip. This isn't, what you see in this isn't real, but it's not tasteful. But then neither was what Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social. And he's an evangelical Christian now, isn't he? So if what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Check this out. We're watching Donald Trump on the loo get a bad belly. Gilt gold edge decor is getting a right old attack. Oh. I'm running through the White House. Get out, get out. Oh dear. thought I'd show you that. I just thought, again, AI every now and then offers something quite disgusting and funny. I just want to, we've kind of done, we'll go back to the Maccabee, I think. Let's talk about Virginia Giuffre. If you don't know who Virginia Giuffre is, she was the woman who reached a settlement with Prince Andrew, alleged that she had to have sex with him several times, was caught up in the awful Jeffrey Epstein paedophile ring. This is the infamous photo that Prince Andrew then went and did an interview with Emily Maitlis for the BBC, saying he didn't sweat. It wasn't his hand around her. You can't see his hand there. This had been photoshopped. She was at heart of the, Prince Andrew's particular kind of, the aspect of Prince Andrew's relationship to Epstein. Well, her book has been published today, and Nobody's Girl. And it's been kind of written partly by her, but co-written also by, they call them ghostwriters, but okay, it's co-written. I just want to show you Danny fucking Price's carousel on this, because it kind of does the job that needs to be done, really. Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir has been released. Nobody's Girl recounts Virginia Giuffre's experiences of trafficking and abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and her later efforts to seek justice. In the book, Guiffre describes meeting Ghislaine at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago while working in a spa and being recruited under the guise of a massage job, which quickly turned into years of sexual exploitation. Guiffre also recalls being passed around by wealthy and powerful people, feeling like she might have ended up dying a sex slave. The memoir alleges that Guiffre was trafficked across multiple locations into sexual situations with prominent men, one of them being Prince Andrew. And in one part of her memoir, she also recounts being left bloodied and beaten after being raped by a former prime minister in an attack she said marked the beginning of the end of Epstein's grip on her. Danny fucking Price goes on to say that although she didn't explicitly name the prime minister, in prior legal findings, Giuffre has named Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, as one of the men she says was trafficked to by Jeffrey Epstein. So a former prime minister of Israel allegedly raped and beat her systematically. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, huge asset for the Israeli government, the Israeli regime, so much so, and he ran and owned the Daily Mirror, disappeared oddly, fell off the side of a boat. Did he or didn't he? Kind of, again, isn't it weird how these sort of operatives or these high profile individuals connected to the Israeli intelligence services just die in mysterious circumstances? It's so weird, isn't it? So weird. So Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, huge ties to Israel. Epstein, by many different individuals, different kind of outlets, described and felt to be an intelligence asset for Israel. I think the more accurate description probably of Epstein will be that he was just an intelligence asset for whoever offered the highest price. And I just think his strongest connection will have been with Israel. So I think some people try and make something of the idea that, well, he was probably providing stuff to Russia and he was probably providing stuff to Gulf states and to, all sorts of places. Yes, probably was. But he was clearly strongly connected to Israel. So the book has a number of kind of revelations, but really the pressure is on for Prince Andrew. We talked about yesterday how the royal family have stripped him of his titles, but now the government is coming under pressure to formally strip Prince Andrew of his titles as well in a sort of law. The Scottish National Party, SNP, has put forward a motion to pressure the government and warn that new legislation must be put forward without any excuses and any further delay. Giuffre's new autobiography apparently has 88 references to Prince Andrew across its 400 pages, including things like the king's brother considered it his birthright to be able to sleep with her. She also said that she feared she might die a sex slave at the hands of Epstein's circle. Some of the revelations, which are pretty hideous, also include her attending an orgy at which Prince Andrew was in attendance. Apparently, so really, I think the big question here is, should the FBI and should Prince Andrew not only be stripped of everything, but should he actually be re-interviewed? And should the police investigate? Yes, they should. Will they? Or once again, will Prince Andrew, here's my worry around this whole story, is that Prince Andrew will become something of, I was saying this last night, and it's right that they go after him as hard as they can. But my worry is that Prince Andrew could become the sacrificial lamb, if you like, that he becomes the distraction, that he becomes the focus, whilst meanwhile, back in America, all those other people that are connected with it are kind of just left untarnished and undealt with. So whilst, yes, go after Prince Andrew, but it's going to be interesting to see how they can go after Prince Andrew with any relish or meaning, because presumably it will reveal others, will it not? I mean, and again, quite astonishing that there's no comment on the idea that a prime minister has been accused of Israel. And none of the mainstream media wants to kind of force that connection, do they? I mean, all the mainstream media, all of the right-wing media, all the Zionist propping up, supporting Israeli apologist media in this country, got a huge appetite for this story because they know it's a big story. But none of them are really kind of, Telegraph review of the none of them really kind of suggesting how bad it could be or what the links could be. These are images of the Andrews' daughter, Fergie, and Prince Andrew's daughter, Beatrice, I believe there. Prince Andrew hasn't paid rent for 22 years, says the Daily Mail. He didn't get any significant inheritance, so how's he paying for it? Prince Andrew has not paid rent on Royal Lodge for 2. Look at how esoteric the British press. So the British approach to it, not that this isn't significant. There's an image of Guiffre when she was much younger. Again, we forget this is paedophilia. This is sex abuse. This is child sex abuse. This isn't just young women who kind of freely made their choices. These are powerful, wealthy men taking advantage of young, underage children. And our press, I mean, you've got to be almost marvel at their parochialism. It's kind of, it's like the British can only talk about tea. So what's the British press talking about today? Not what he's done, not the orgies, not the connections with Israel, not the entire connections with the Trumpian regime. They're talking about how much has he paid in terms of rent for his Royal Lodge. It's classic British distraction. It's just ridiculous. Guiffre, pronounced Guiffre. Apologies, James. Guiffre. Virginia Guiffre. Well, regardless of the pronunciation, what do you think of the kind of distraction about rent? Why are we all talking about his rent? Rather than what the fuck else is everything else that's gone on? Do you get how the press just goes for a little bit over here, gets us all worked up about it, occupies their pages with it, and then the story ebbs away and then they move on? It's all connected with Israel. All of it. All of it. And I said yesterday, I think there's more to come out. There will be more to come out. I'm sure there'll be more to come out. And, people are poring over the pages of Virginia Giuffre's memoir. But, Mandelson, Clinton's, Trump, loads of donors to Trump caught up in it, lawyers. Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House in America, refusing to kind of swear in a Democrat senator so that they don't have to vote on whether the full cache of Epstein files is released. This is one awful, awful cover-up. And what are we covering up here? It's like I keep seeing memes everywhere about Tylenol. Donald Trump says Tylenol is bad for your kids. Pedophiles are really bad for your kids as well. And for some reason, he wants to protect them all. Israel, specifically Mossad, specifically representing a large polled proportion of a country that is hostile to almost everyone in the region in which it exists. The Israeli government, the Israeli intelligence services are shot through this like a stick of rock. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. But you know what? The Times, the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, how much was he paying for his Frogmore? How much was he paying for the Frog March? Is it Frogmore? Frogmore Cottage. How much was he paying for his Grace and Favour mansion on Windsor Estate? I don't give a flying monkey's jollop how much he was or wasn't paying. He needs to be dragged in front of the FBI and the police, charged for having sex with a child, if he, you know, or at least investigated and asked for information and more intelligence on everything else and everyone else he knew were there. Especially as he emailed old Epstein after the interview, was it, saying we'll play again one day? But no, the Telegraph, I'm going to say it again, because it really makes me fucking sick to death and embarrassed of our fucking so-called journalists and the press in this country. How much did he pay? Oh, taxpayer. Fucking hell, it's such a distraction. It's not that it's not a part of the story, but it's not the story. It's not the story. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And let's just go back over to Trump just to get another sense of his attitude to women, just quickly. This is him in response to an Australian female journalist asking him a question about Ukraine. Check this out.
Senator Lindsey Graham's bill to declare Russia a terrorist state. And you have within your power, you're the most powerful man on earth. Why don't you just enable Ukraine to finish this war tomorrow?
Well, if you knew anything about what you were talking about, you'd be able. You do. I don't think you do, really. I don't think you do, because it's a little more complicated than that. But it sounds easy. We're in the process of trying to make a deal. If we make a deal, that's great. If we don't make a deal, it'll be a lot of people are going to be paying a big price.
It's a little bit more, how patronizing, eh? Oh, dearie me. Dearie me. And also, I just forgot this clip. Go back referencing, you know, Trump posting a film shitting on the protesters, to then that film I just showed you of Donald Trump having a bad tummy on the Kazi. Look, Mike Johnson, the guy I'm talking about, who won't swear in a senator because actually that could mean that they could vote on whether the Epstein files are released. Listen to what Mike Johnson said about the shitting meme that Trump posted.
Democrats had a Hate America rally. But what does it say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The President uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents.
We've got, so now Donald Trump reposting a AI generated clip of him dropping shit on the American population is apparently brilliant satire. I mean, the fact that they even know what the word satire means is quite telling, isn't it? It's just, it's a staggering state of affairs, isn't it? You're very sweet, Farida. I mean, I do wonder, what do the mainstream media, I mean, I presume if you're a journalist sat at the Telegraph, you're the Mail, you sit down and you're looking for something that just gets clicks. You want to satisfy your news editor. You want to make sure you also know that you've got a benefactor, an employer that will itself be compromised by certain pressure groups and influencers, who's going for dinner with really rich people, and you need to kind of make sure you don't kind of come off the script. I mean, years ago, I worked for way ahead of its time, before such a thing as streaming or anything like that. I worked for a cable channel called Channel 1. It was run by Evening Standard and the Daily Mail. So I was paid by the Associated Press. And I remember at the time, you know, it wasn't that we were told to only cover stories, and we're talking years ago, but it was essentially a mouthpiece for the Evening Standard and the Daily Mail. You just kind of, you know, certain stories were decided upon in a briefing meeting. You went for that story versus that story. You did your job on it, and etc. But these days, it's just like literally no challenging questions are asked of anyone. But also, I think maybe let's just throw a bone to the journalists. None of these politicians make themselves available to be challenged. Or it's a little bit akin to, bear with me on this analogy, when you review films, you don't get invited to previews, to screenings, to junket interviews if you've ever landed a critical review of a film. So the PR team only allow in people they know they're going to get favorable coverage from, which kind of makes a lot of film reviewing kind of null and void and pointless, or why they don't judge the film. They just tell you what happens, because they don't want to be drawn into deciding whether it's good or not, because they don't want it to ruin their access to famous people, celebrity. I mean, and when you start to get into that, use that as an analogy or a metaphor for politics. If you ask too many challenging questions, in America, Trump just says you're out. He kind of does it obviously, at least he does it in front of the cameras. But here, you're just marginalized, you're sidelined. Look at the way in which the Labour Party conference will probably not be inviting Owen Jones back. So, to throw the journalists a bone, these politicians and those that we need to challenge don't make themselves available unless they know already quite certainly what they're going to be asked. Ugh. We kind of did the Maccabee story, didn't we? Tel Aviv football thugs won't attend. I just wanted to play this just quickly, though. This is Zara Sultana. By the way, I've joined the Green Party today. I'm not going with your party. Isn't it funny how something like that members portal thing can really, all I felt after years and years of backing and supporting and voting Labour, all I heard in that was the future of disagreements, internecine, is that right? Internecine squabbles, factionalism. I thought, oh man, if they can't even sort it with a fucking paying portal, Green. I've signed up today. I've joined the Green Party. Voted at the last election. Joined the Green Party. But so I'm not posting this because I'm supporting her party, but I think I agree with a lot of what she and Jeremy Corbyn say. Absolutely. But I just want to show this clip because once again, Zara Sultana. The one thing you could not call Zara Sultana is, I'd have thought, anti-Semitic or somehow not committed to the rights of Palestinians or what's right in this argument. But listen to this.
It's racist fan hooliganism cannot be separated from Israeli militarism. Many of these fans are active or former soldiers who have taken part in Israel's genocide in Gaza. They should be investigated for war crimes the moment they set foot onto British soil, not welcomed into our stadiums. And let's be clear, this Labour government is no innocent bystander. It has armed Israel's genocide, it has provided diplomatic cover, and it has shamefully denied that genocide is even taking place. So I ask the Minister, is there anything this Labour government won't do to defend the genocidal apartheid state of Israel?
Madam Deputy Speaker.
And just wait for it. This is Lisa Nandy, who I think received... this is Lisa Nandy, our Culture Secretary, and I understand that in declaration she received £19,000 for the running of her office from a major Israeli supporting, Zionist supporting donor, as I understand it. But this is her pushback.
I like the Honourable Lady, but I have to say that she is doing the people of Birmingham no favours with that sort of rhetoric. When it comes to the conflation that she makes between all of the Maccabee Tel Aviv supporters and the actions of the Israeli government, that is precisely what the honourable gentleman was talking about blaming, in many cases, British citizens who happen to support Maccabee Tel Aviv for actions that are taking place in the Middle East. Conflating being Jewish and Israeli, I have to say, I'm afraid, is in itself anti-Semitism. I think she should take more care with her remarks.
A Labour cabinet minister giving lessons in to a politician who has fought tirelessly for the ending of a genocide and the total oppression of Palestinians. For her to call that woman anti-Semitic is quite shocking. No one, Lisa Nandy, was conflating Maccabee fans with every Jewish person in the world. We were looking at, bear with me 1 second. Thank you, take care. I'm back. MI6. Yeah, it's Mossad. What was I saying? No one is conflating the two things. When a football club has an extraordinarily thuggish, hooligan, violent temperament and section and contingent within their fan base, sadly, if that football club can't control those fans and that element, in away games, the whole football club or the whole fan base gets essentially punished. And so constantly this persistent, even though the Maccabee fans have now and the Maccabee Club have said we're not going to go, the fact that our Labour government is still persisting in trying to suggest that this is a judgment against Jewish people or even Israeli, but this is a judgment against the fan base or the fans of a club that, okay, let's say for argument, it's a large small section or a small section or a significant section or a not significant section, but a significant enough section to have caused problems in Amsterdam, problems in Athens, and could have caused problems in Turkey, then that's what happens to the fans of a football club. And so the way in which our government has so rapidly, like they did with the Manchester synagogue attack, so rapidly sought to connect the synagogue attack, anti-Semitic synagogue attack, and the desire to ban aggressive, violent football hooligans, they've connected. Our Labour government has sought to immediately connect those to the cumulative effect and the sense of anti-Semitism due to the so-called peaceful protests for Palestine. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Oh, drives me mad. Anyway, that's your lot. Let's have a look. What have you got to say? Come on, give us your thoughts on some of the stories today. Nandi has been given 19K by the Israeli lobby. Yep, just said that. Lisa Nandi should resign. The others will toe the line and get behind the paid-for Israel narrative, says Shilly. Israelis are obliged to serve in the military. So it goes without saying that the majority of those football fans have. I made that point earlier too. Totally agree. Farida, is there such a thing as overuse or abuse of a term? Because I think anti-Semitic could be up there. It's been rendered kind of meaningless by Netanyahu. Edward Bevington, I was one of the first on her YouTube channel, but don't have faith in her anymore, I'm afraid. It's an Israeli, Claire Willison, it's an Israeli football team supporting Israel's genocidal actions. The anti-Semitism is in Nandi's reply. Very good, totally agree. There was a Jewish person on the radio who said we should call it Jew hate and not anti-Semitism, so it's clearer. It's neither. It's like Millwall fans are well known in London for being aggressive. So if I heard, for example, that Tottenham had put a ban on Millwall, I don't think they've put a ban on everyone in Southeast London. It's just the fans are fucking impossible to control. And it's not all the fans, but you can't fucking home in on the individual ones because the problem with football hooliganism is they're parked within a crowd. Oh, God, hang on. You've just reminded me. Abby Reid. I think Tommy 10 faces will being his idiots. Okay, can't quite work out what you're saying there, Abby. I think you might have written it too quickly. But it'd be interesting to see if Tommy Robinson. Oh, that's true. I wonder if Tommy Robinson and all of his British-based Maccabee fans will all be there on November the 6th. And I wonder if they'll be in the away. I wonder if they're allowed to book tickets. How's that going to work? It doesn't necessarily mean there isn't going to be an issue on the day. But let me just play you. I just want to play you this clip. And this is Tommy Robinson interviewing some Zionist chap from the Israeli government. He could be very significant, but anyway, this is him interviewing him. But look at this. Look at his microphone. This is Tommy being a.
I simply say this: that when they did the partial,
that's Ian Duncan Smith being what he can only be, which is incredibly supercilious.
In Turkey, Hungarian authorities.
Let me just get past that. Here we go. Oh, sorry.
Leads racist foul hooliganism.
I'm screwing this.
Why is your fight here in the state of Israel? Why is it important to us in mainland Europe?
We are the last front. If we lose, God forbid, you have to be very naive to think that the crocodile will have no more hunger.
What? You have to be very naive to think of the crocodile. Presumably Hamas is the crocodile, but I can't take my eyes off Tommy Robinson's microphone.
Very stupid not to realize that the goal of these people, of the terror organizations,
he's trying to find what the goal is. It's an open goal. He can't find the words, guys, but he's striving, and with that great big chunky microphone in front of him, we can hear him thinking.
Really to dominate. This is the nature of their version.
I think he hits his mic.
Of the terror organizations.
I think he bangs the giant microphone.
Their goal is really to dominate.
Oh, he's just knocked the tip of Tommy Robinson's microphone. That wasn't a sentence I was saying. Yes, he thinks he's a journalist. The bigger the microphone, the bigger the journalist. I mean, the microphone is almost as big as him.
The nature of their version of Islam to dominate the world, to have everyone under their boots. And this is what we oppose. Well, Muammar Gaddafi, the late ruler of Libya, said, "We shall conquer Europe without a single shot." And this is what we see these days in the streets of London, in the streets of Rome, in the streets of Paris.
I think Tommy's zoned out. I think Tommy is literally thinking, where am I going to get my sausage roll from?
Stand up. You need to stand up against this.
Yeah. Look, watch Tommy Robinson's face at the end. You need to stand up. He realizes it's about, there's always a moment, however professional, however astute, however well trained you are, you're asking questions, you've got a microphone. It's easy to drift. And you can have a list of questions, and there's a moment where you think, oh, hang on, he's wrapping up his answer, and I haven't really listened to what he's just said, and I now need to do a follow-up question. Watch Tommy's eyes at the end.
The ruler of Libya said, "We shall conquer Europe without a single shot."
Watch Tommy's eyes.
And this is what we see these days in the streets of London, in the streets of Rome, in the streets of Paris.
I don't know what he's talking about now. Look.
And you need to stand up. You need to stand up against this. And you do that very much better than others.
Mm. Make sure you get a microphone that's as big as me, all right? And put your fucking Union Jack on the end of it, yeah? I'll shove it in his face. I'll ask you some questions. There you go. On that note, he's an instigator and a Zionist shill, says Musical Chimp. In your opinion. Clearly, it's the ones you can't criticize who dominate. Yeah. Tommy, two names is dozing on. He was so not in the room, was he? He was so not in the room at that point there. Look, it's just, he was literally just final moment. He's like, oh, God, there's a flag there. I love a flagpole, me. Oh, God, what's he saying? I don't really understand. I'm starving. This fucking microphone is really hurting my fucking forearm. It's so long. Don't ever hit my microphone again. That's what he's thinking. Anyway, guys, lots of love. Do subscribe, do hit the notification bell, and we will see you tomorrow. And something else will be landing on the channel later. If you fancy a really kind of eye-wateringly embarrassing How to Stay Married podcast, one landed last night, go and check it out.